You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
This month's Centresteer podcast is sponsored by Commonwealth Classics. Commonwealth Classics is a direct importer of classic vehicles from Europe and South America and has a rotating collection of rare and unique Land Rovers. Their showroom is located in Virginia, just 45 minutes from Washington, D.C. Visit www.cwclassics.com to view their current inventory of classic vehicles.
The Centresteer Podcast, a Land Rover podcast by Land Rover owners.
Welcome to the Centresteer Podcast, the first Land Rover podcast on the planet. Centresteer is a podcast by, for, and about Land Rover owners. This is podcast number 85 for August 2020. We've completed our 7th year, and there was much rejoicing. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. For posterity and reference, significant portions of the globe are on lockdown, shelter in place, or stay-at-home orders due to COVID-19. I don't know when you're going to be listening to the show, but keep that in mind as you listen. I'm your host, John Costage. Joining me over Zoom, yes, we're trying something different, are Harold, Morgan, and Dixon. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey.
Greetings. Hey.
Bit ironic that we're using a platform called Zoom to talk about things that don't go fast.
I'm particularly excited for our guest this month. As you may have heard me mentioned in many times, I'm the grandchild of immigrants from Bulgaria and Macedonia. So
really? Never heard that before.
See? Oh, good. You've been paying attention, Harold. Thank you.
Learn something new every day.
That's right. Zlatev, who runs the Bulgaria Land Rover Club, will tell us about Land Rovering, four-wheeling, and the community in Bulgaria. It was a good conversation. That was a good one. And as always, thanks for your comments, likes, follows on Twitter, Instagram, email, Facebook. I think I covered them all. We'll have an update on Oxford in America right after the news with David Short. He'll give us an update on where things stand in the midst of pandemic 2020. So you'll want to follow that. That'll be before the guest, and that will be after the news. And if you enjoy following Oxford, our interviews with figures in the Overland and Land Rover community, or the Stay-at-Home Rover Rally, I ask you to support the show. Visit our website at centresteer.com for all the details. You can be a regular podcast supporter through Patreon, a one-time support through Buy Me a Tea, and you can show off your support by purchasing a t-shirt or sticker so that when we're all be able to be back in person again, you can show your sticker or your t-shirt to your fellow Land Rover friends and enthusiasts. We've received our first Buy Me a Tea donations. So thanks to Nick and Bob separately. They were our first donators to Buy Me a Tea. So gentlemen, let me know. I'll send you some money. You can buy your own personal beverage.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Once we're able to go to such establishments.
We are planning to hold another stay-at-home Rover Rally in May, working out the details. To be candid, been focused on producing this podcast first, and we want to do something a bit different from the first one. So if you have any ideas, please speak up. Reach out to us. Let us know what your ideas might be. Want to do another stay-at-home Rover Rally.
And of course, contributing some videos would be nice too.
Yes, it's on the list of possibilities. I had given it some thought, not really sure what to do. Want to do something a little different instead of just showing Fort Pitt videos and streaming those for 12 hours.
Which we've all seen ad infinitum. They're entertaining, but we'd like to see some new material, and some of you folks out there probably have some stuff we haven't seen.
All right, let's get into the news. First up, Morgan, go ahead and let us know. Give us the first news article.
We can thank my calendar for the reminder that April 30th is the Land Rover birthday, the unveiling of the Land Rover at the Amsterdam Motor Show in 1948. So this year marks 72 years. And actually, doing a quick check online, I was reminded that in 2016, Land Rover found the original pre-production model that was on display. And in 2018, they restored it. Haven't heard much since then about it, but presumably it's out there doing important things.
And being socially distant.
Isn't it next to Huey at the Gaydon Museum, Motor Museum? I recall hearing that.
Very likely.
And did they not take the new Defender and pair it with one of either a prototype or a Series 1 at some point and take it through the factory proving ground there?
The jungle course?
Yes.
It could have been. They kept it in fairly original patina, so I'm not quite sure.
We should perhaps have a chat with Mr. Bishop. He might know.
Happy birthday to the Series 1.
Or Land Rover as a whole. Morgan, you can take that piece of Post-it note off from above your head now.
I think that's what we should change our podcast production. We can put Post-it notes on Morgan's ceiling, and then he can just take the stories down as we talk about them.
If we were a video podcast, that would be fun. What's next, Morgan? Let me see. Pull it down.
Oh, we just do stories at random then. Yes. What's the order? Just pull
Grab
them off
the next
ceiling.
Post-it note, Morgan.
I'm sure my neck would appreciate that, spending hours like this.
You're the one that put them up there in the first place.
It's true. I have only myself to blame.
JLR furloughs half of workforce. About 20,000 JLR workers, half of its staff have been furloughed because of the pandemic. The car giant employs about 40,000 globally, with most based at Castle Bromwich in Solihull, Gaydon in Warwickshire, Whitley in Coventry, Helwell in Merseyside. All production was suspended last month. That would have been in March. In response to the outbreak, the firm said its executive leadership team would also defer salary payments for the next 3 months. Ralph Spaeth will take a 30% reduction, the board of management 20%, and executive leadership team a 10% reduction. Wages of the staff have been furloughed, those in non-critical roles, will be topped up to protect their 100% base salary during April, the firm said. That goes along with sales for JLR in the past year. The JLR's on a fiscal year of April through March, and the company sold over 500,000 cars in the last 12 months, down 12% on the same period last year. A more significant dent was made in the last quarter, January through March, with total sales down 31% year on year. Figures vary between brands. Jaguar took a particular hammering, down 22% overall and 43% year on year in the last quarter. They sold over 28,000 vehicles. Land Rover, by comparison, was down 7.7% overall, 26% for the last quarter, and they sold 81,000 and a half vehicles in the last quarter. And then the article goes on to say, JLR is quick to point out its relative success despite the doom and gloom. Range Rover Evoque sales were up by a quarter year on year, while Jag I-Pace sales increased by 40%. That's a good number. It also claimed to have ended the fiscal year with £3.6 billion of cash and unaudited short-term investments and an undrawn credit facility of almost £2 billion.
Yeah, they were working hard to recover, and that certainly shows, but still, ouch.
I suspect a lot of that cash is just going to flow out of the coffers fairly quickly.
Oof.
A lot depending on what the British government's going to be doing in terms of support for companies and workers and everything else.
Well, not only that, but Slovakia, China, Brazil, they've got plants on all those locations and critical to building the vehicles and getting them transported to their respective markets. Automotive News Europe, which I do not have a subscription for, so I can only read you the headline. Tata asked JLR CEO to delay retirement.
Well, they've got enough other stuff going wrong. If they can keep just a little bit more stability by keeping them there, I think it's probably a smart move.
With all the stuff going on, there's something you don't have to do. Why would you do it?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
And he was successful in righting the ship financially, cutting back on making all those cuts last year and kind of getting things right and getting the Defender built and out.
And he wasn't necessarily leaving anyway. He was just stepping back and trying to do less for the company so that they can. I think it's a relatively easy thing for them to delay.
Probably also had a problem. Who would you get to step up and take the position of that in such a difficult period when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next year?
I mean, Lee Iacocca is dead. He's the only person I would think of that could do something that's that crazy. Take over a company that's near death and turn it around.
Moving on, JLR and Aston Martin among UK firms planning return. Major names in British car manufacturing, construction, and retail have announced plans to return to work in tentative signs that businesses are preparing to kickstart an economy paralyzed by the virus. JLR and Aston Martin announced they would restart work with social distancing measures to prevent the spread of COVID. JLR, the UK's biggest car maker, plans to gradually reopen some factories on May 18th. The company's Solihull plant, which employs 9,000 workers, making its Range Rover models, will reopen with a quarter of its workers at first, alongside plant in Slovakia and Austria. You may have heard, or I think may have mentioned last month, that originally JLR had shut its plants in the UK and were supposed to reopen them in 20th of April. I didn't hear that they had, so my guess is they probably have pushed everything out a month to this May date now. We heard through the rumor mill, such as it is, the Rover Underground. Would maybe this be a good Rover Underground message? An American has ordered a new Defender, and it was told by Land Rover that it's been produced and it's completed and it's sitting on the parking lot in Slovakia, but Land Rover's not going to ship anything to America for the foreseeable future, even though it's ready to go. And I suspect that's because they're not sure what's happening with, I guess, transport.
Well, I think they probably want a batch of them at one time.
Also, the rumor was they were going to relaunch the Defender launch. So maybe that's what they're waiting for, is to get everything when they can do a proper relaunch of the launch of the new Defender. Maybe just waiting for all that to come together and
build some momentum behind it or something.
Yeah, when you can actually have people go to the dealerships, and because you'd have to have dealerships open, you'd have to have people be able to see the vehicle in person, touch it, drive it.
I think what they want is to be able to have dealerships open and have dealerships get half a dozen of them right out front on the street and say, here they are, come buy one.
Come buy one, please buy it.
We need it. We need the money.
They have to have enough of them around because there's going to be a queue of people that are going to be taking delivery immediately. You need to have some demonstrators that are a surplus for some demonstrators for people to go and drive about.
Right. So I think you want to hit that all at one time. You want to have some demonstrators, but you also want to have that inventory to deliver so that there's some out on the street at the same time, so that there's more visibility that way.
Effectively a launch. So they're going to have to hit reset and reset the launch. It's really what that is. Continuing on with the kind of coronavirus related info, JLR uses its 3D printers to make visors. They started supplying hundreds of protective visors made on their 3D printers for the frontline NHS staff in the UK. The manufacturer is adapting kit usually sold for making new car parts at its Warwickshire site and is currently producing 250 visors a day, but they are hoping to ramp that up to 5,000 a day.
I wonder what the panel gap on their face shields is.
Probably decent these days.
How can Jaguar Land Rover bounce back from the coronavirus crisis? This is from Coventry Live. They talked to automotive expert Dr. Charles Tennant, and there's a number of questions, but I think there were two that I was going to highlight. How are things globally in the automotive sector right now, and is JLR particularly vulnerable? And Tennant answers, to be fair, it is a level playing field for all automotive companies, but JLR is more vulnerable than the other much bigger premium and luxury manufacturers like BMW, Volvo, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz. And in the automotive business, scale is everything, and it is all to do with huge investment needed to produce new products and manufacturing facilities to make them. Even the much bigger players like Ford, GM, Toyota, and VW are collaborating as much as they can to share this investment burden, particularly in developing electric and autonomous vehicles. In the case of JLR, they have also a somewhat weak father in the form of Tata Motors, which is facing its own massive headwinds in the Indian market, with sales down 34% in February, in part due to supply problems from China, and a share price that has tanked 62% in just 3 months. That's that question. So apparently not being a big player will be a problem.
Well, and being a bit sick financially prior to this, I think isn't going to help either.
What are the key problems facing JLR and how can they be overcome? And Tennant says, the problems facing JLR are so big it is hard to see how they can possibly weather the storm without a significant financial bailout, as none of us know when the lockdown can start to ease. This means zero sales for JLR and mothballed production facilities across the world with a dormant supply chain. So although 80% of the 30,000 plus furloughed workers' wages may be covered by the government and VAT and taxes owed can be deferred, JLR is going to need more, much more. This may be in the form of the Bank of England buying short-term debt from JLR to ease its way back into smooth running again, or if not, then the Tata Group may have to dig deep again with huge additional investment. On another front, mass production manufacturing facilities do not lend themselves to being idle. There will be a maintenance burden on JLR and its suppliers to literally oil the wheels so that these plants can restart again whenever. But even when production restarts, be sure there will be a slow ramp up back to anything like normal car sales again, as consumers will have many more pressing financial priorities than purchasing a new car. So we can certainly expect low global sales and therefore large losses moving forward this year. That was probably, I think, a good general summation.
Yeah.
Not only the financial pressures, but I don't think you're just going to casually walk into a dealership unless you have to. You're just not going to, hey, I want to look and see what's out there and just kind of walk in.
You can't in Pennsylvania.
And you can't right now. Yeah, you can't do that. That's right.
Land Rover was one of the first to see that in China and start warning other companies about it. So it's something they're very familiar with already.
On top of their financial problems.
Yeah.
And debuting one of the most important models they've had in probably 30 years.
Right, which they now can't deliver.
JLR is trying to help out people to buy new cars. A nice segue. How's that? One company facing the challenge is JLR, the storied British automaker that sold 125,000 vehicles in the United States in 2019, an all-time high for the company on the heels of a record 2018. Unfortunately, due to the virus-associated slowdown in dealer showroom traffic, it looks like there won't be a three-peat in 2020. I just wanted to say three-peat. To combat the economic pain that the coronavirus pandemic is inflicting, JLR has announced a couple of coronavirus car payment plans and programs to not only help consumers buy or lease a new Jaguar or Land Rover vehicle, but also provide financial assistance to existing owners. And this is from JD Power. You can read the article yourself. I'll just pull out a couple interesting aspects that appealed or I thought were important. To allow existing customers who financed or leased through JLR Financial Group more time and flexibility, the automaker is offering during April and May a lease extension for up to 6 months. So I guess if your lease was coming due, you could extend that. And there was also some waivers of up to $750 a month, I think, for returning leasees.
I guess extending the lease is a handy thing right now, given, well, here in Pennsylvania, you couldn't return it to the dealer anyway.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't, right?
Yeah, what do you do at the end of your period when all the dealerships are forced closed by the governor? Right. How do you turn it back in?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you can only go for service or maintenance.
I guess you could just break it and leave it in the shop there at the dealership.
Although they're starting up online sales, that might be a way to do that, especially if you're just extending your lease. And then in the new car buying incentive, they're offering 0% APR financing for up to 72 months on all 2020 Jaguar and Land Rover models, as well as a 2021 Jaguar F-Type. 0% financing incentive runs through June 30th of this year, 2020. And JLR is offering to new leasees that qualify and who finance through JLR Financial Group a 90-day first payment deferral program. So I don't understand that. If you pay monthly and you're giving a 90-day first payment deferral, does that mean you don't pay the first month for 90 days, but then you pay the second one in 30 days, as you normally would?
No, it defers all payments 90 days.
Oh, it's pushing. Okay, you're just pushing everything back.
So then after the lease is up and you turn it back in, you still have 3 more payments to make?
This is for purchases, not leases, right?
Oh, okay.
It says offering new lessees. I guess that's not leases, that's lessees. That's people.
Lessee is the person who takes the lease.
Takes the lease. It's Lessees.
Right. In a transaction, there is the lessee and the lessor.
But this is under new car incentives, isn't that?
You can lease a new car.
You can lease, but you can also buy. And if you buy, you still, I think, can be a lessee.
No, you're a borrower.
Okay. Well, then
you're a buyer because you'll own it at the end of it. The lease, you're leasing it.
Well, somebody has some incorrect terminology here then, because this is under new car incentives, and then they say new lessees.
Well, but you can lease a new car.
Oh.
Yeah,
I get what you're
gotcha.
saying. Okay. I'm thinking new cars like buy, I guess, you're buying it
but
outright.
you can lease a new car or you can buy the new car. Those are the 2 ways you get a new car into your hands.
And in Australia, they are extending leases for 2 years. So JLR
Warranties.
Australia... Hang on. JLR Australia has added a 5-year unlimited kilometer warranty to its offering for a limited time, available on new and demonstrator models sold and delivered between April 1 and June 30, 2020. The offer is joined by a savings equivalent to the GST on each model and a loyalty bonus up to $5,000 depending on the model. As with most extended warranty offers, the deal includes the standard 3-year warranty with an additional 2 years added. So that's for new cars and lessees.
The unlimited kilometers on the warranty is a good thing because Australia is so freaking huge. You'd mile out of the warranty long before you timed out of it. So doing unlimited kilometers is kind of a nice thing.
It's a good point.
So the interesting question I have for you, for the distinguished panel and our listeners is, when's the last time you filled up fuel in your vehicle, especially if you've been working from home for the past month or so?
I fill up about the same rate I always do. I have a
Well, you haven't changed your habits though, right?
I have a 0.9 mile commute each way,
And that has not changed.
and that has not changed. No.
Yes. There's
I go grocery shopping a little less frequently, but otherwise it hasn't changed much. But at the same time, while my 130 has fuel in it that I bought in Ohio on the way back, I still haven't burned up the rest of that tank, just because I don't fuel up maybe once a month per vehicle.
what we all as the podcast and podcast listener community, we should go out and buy a couple of tankers full of diesel. Can we do that? It's so cheap. That's what I want to do.
Now is the time.
Well, no, see what you need is you need that tanker, but you fill the tanker full of sand. And then you also get a school bus with a whole bunch of 55-gallon drums.
For those who get the reference.
I don't.
Mad Max.
Oh, I see.
It's too bad you can't refine oil. Go and buy oil when it was at minus 37.
JLR North America CMO departs. Kim McCullough, Jaguar Land Rover's vice president of marketing in North America since 2014, reportedly has left the company. And Joe Eberhardt, who runs the JLR North America, is assuming McCullough's duties. McCullough's departure ends her second time around at the company. She was appointed to her current position in September of 2014, reporting directly to Eberhardt. Her duties included leading distinct Jaguar and Land Rover marketing operations, including brand strategy, advertising, digital, experiential, and partnerships. Prior to this role, McCullough held the position of brand vice president, Land Rover North America, since March of 2011. And she had previously worked for Land Rover North America in the marketing department from 1997 to 2001. Maybe that was the plan all along, where they were going to announce the new Defender, then she was going to go. That was kind of surprising. All right, moving on. Land Rover can but won't go after Jeep Gladiator with Defender pickup. This is from Motor One here in the U.S. The rumors that Land Rover could build a pickup based on the new Defender have been around for a while. A new report from Autocar reaffirms the British manufacturers plan to ditch the idea of a Defender truck. According to the publication, a 5-door pickup is technically possible on the D7 platform, but it doesn't make business sense because Land Rover is not an expert in the commercial pickup truck market.
Nonsense.
Yeah, I agree too. It's all the 25% import duty.
Well, yeah,
at least here in the U.S.
Special
United
Vehicles
States.
Division, they are an expert in all things commercial and military and special usage.
It'd be pretty appalling if they've lost all of that commercial and military experience that they had gained over 50 years.
Exactly. But no, the chicken tax is mostly to blame here. You can't compete financially, number one, with a vehicle that's already premium price. And second, once you add that 25% import duty on top, it wouldn't sell any.
You're coming into one of the biggest pickup truck markets there is, hence the pickup duty to kind of control that market and maintain it for American car manufacturers. Hard to break in.
Need to put some of those cheap plastic jump seats in the back.
There we go. That would be the Land Rover Defender Baja edition.
Defender Brat.
Land Rover Defender Spied testing with a V8. It may look like an ordinary 2020 Land Rover Defender. This test vehicle actually has a 5-liter V8 under the hood. How could we know? Well, the spy photographer and his team that provided these photos ran the plates and discovered the car is registered as having such an engine. At the back, there are dual exhaust outlets with a quartet of tips. The recently released Defender with the other engine options has a solitary outlet on the left side. Not only that, but the muffler the tips are attached to is shaped differently compared to other Defenders. I know it just doesn't match up with what we heard last month, where V8s are out.
Well, that was last month. This is now.
And it could be for other markets. It's possible that since the U.S. requirements are not as stringent as the EU market, they could be destined here or maybe somewhere else like UAE.
Yeah, the Middle East, where they love their big V8s.
Right.
Because they give the gasoline away, so why not?
And continuing with new Defender rumors, the Defender 80 will be small, affordable, but still rugged. And this is out of Car and Driver, and they're just pulling together a bunch of rumors. And the upcoming Defender 80 is a new baby Land Rover set to be positioned below the recently revived Defender in the brand hierarchy. If it reaches the U.S. market, it could provide a more affordable entry point. Reports have named it the 80, given that Land Rover calls, as we know, the 90 and the 110. Of course, there's no confirmation of any of this.
Which means if it's an 80, it'll probably have a 94-inch wheelbase.
Land Rover will likely build the 80 in Asia on a platform shared with parent company Tata and related to the one that underpins the existing India market Tata Harrier. Powertrain options should include JLR's smaller turbocharged Ingenium engines, possibly including a 3-cylinder with hybrid and plug-in options. When, and I'm adding if, the Defender 80 arrives sometime in 2022, with prices starting just above $30,000, it could possibly compete with off-roaders such as the Bronco and the Jeep Wrangler, along with the smaller car-based derivatives such as the Bronco Sport and Compass. This is all in the rumor mill.
And it seems highly unlikely that that would make it to the U.S.
I don't think there's enough profit there. But I think they definitely need a cheap and durable piece in the Defender lineup. But yeah, I don't think they can make money bringing them here.
First get the 90 and the 110 here, period, and then let's sell those. The artist rendition, which artist rumor, if you will, visual of what it could be. The one thing I did like, they had a extended Alpine window,
kind of wedge shaped, which was interesting to me visually.
Yeah, what I understand is that the Tata Harrier platform that thing is on is actually originally a Jaguar JLR D8 platform, which is what they're using with the Evoque and E-Pace right now. So be interesting how it all turns out.
I suspect in the new world we're in, however you want to phrase it, everything's on the table. Maybe that's why the V8 is kind of potentially back on the table, or maybe it never was off the table because
they've got to sell what people are willing to buy and make money wherever they can.
Although, where do you put your investment dollars? If you have limited cash and you're not getting any new cash in, you also have to put it in the right places.
But I think it's a relatively small investment, and I say relatively small. Compared to developing a whole new model, it's relatively small to just work with and re-engineer and certify an engine.
Although bringing in a kind of a rebadged Tata and call it a Defender works against everything they've been doing, especially here in North America for the last 10 years of moving everything upscale and making it luxury. And
it might be an interesting test for them.
It could be just floating ideas and seeing what the market will go and say about it. When the DC 100 came out, the reaction was enough for them to go hide, wait a few years, and then produce effectively what's almost a DC 100 again. But here, if the market is muted, or there's some enthusiasm with a cheap Defender, why not do it? Especially if they want to churn off Defender as being its own product line like Discovery or Range Rover.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you throw the idea out there loosely, and if people say no, then they don't do it. But if people flock to the dealers with deposit money in hand, then that's kind of their answer.
TheThings.com has 15 facts and figures about the upcoming Land Rover Defender, and this is from April 1st. I assume this to be an accurate April Fool's article. I'm not reading them all because we most of know all of these. The one that called out to me, though, that I don't recall hearing before is it comes pre-wrapped. The Land Rover Defender comes with the option of being pre-wrapped in a covering specifically made for this car. The wrapping can heal itself in the sun from small scuffs and scratches. Also, the wrapping on the car can be changed many times throughout the entire car's life, ensuring further aesthetic longevity.
Yeah, I had actually heard about that wrap, but what I didn't realize was that it was replaceable. That's very interesting. Most wraps are, but not necessarily done. That's not necessarily done over the period of the lifetime of the vehicle.
Well, theoretically, paint is replaceable too. It's a matter of how much labor is involved.
True.
Is that the satin finish look they have? Is that what that is? Is that, I assume, a clear coat wrap?
I think so, yeah.
I suspect it's that clear coat one that looks kind of satiny, or excuse me, that paint that looks kind of satiny probably has that wrap on it.
I'm more interested in the self-healing aspect. I wonder how that works.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And how that would hold up to UV, because most exotic chemistry type things that I've seen don't fare well in UV exposure.
Well, the description makes it almost sound like the UV is helping it somehow.
Yeah, which is strange.
And how long is it warranted? Because if you look at Land Rover's or JLR's warranties for North America right now, they don't even cover perforation caused by bird poop, salt on the roads, and a whole host of things. I'd be very interested to see how their warranty reads with this.
Agreed.
Yep.
It's magic.
A miracle.
It is. It's a miracle. Where's PPG paints when you need them? Another Pittsburgh reference. See, if you're at home with a Pittsburgh drinking game, Land Rovers hit the Disco Sport and Range Rover Evoque with the electrification stick. On Wednesday, the British automaker revealed the Range Rover Evoque P300E and Discovery Sport P300E plug-in hybrid models. On paper, it sounds like efficiency doesn't come with many trade-offs. We'll begin with the similarities between the two models, both the Evoque and the Discovery Sport. Plug-in hybrids sport a new turbocharged 1.5-liter 3-cylinder engine paired with an electric motor tucked into the rear axle and a 15 kilowatt-hour battery. Both SUVs provide 305 horsepower, 372 pound-feet of torque, and a new 8-speed automatic handles gear changes. All-wheel drive is part of the package, of course. No matter which model, they'll go up to 84 miles per hour on battery power alone before the engine kicks in to handle some of the duty. Should that be 84 miles? They said 84 miles per hour.
That would be an interesting changeover if it's whizzing along in silent mode at 84 miles an hour and then the engine kicks in. Boom. And then what does it do? Slow down?
And how often do you go 84 miles per hour normally? It's,
Well, that's just keeping up out west.
And that poor little 3-cylinder suddenly switching on at 84 miles an hour.
That's kind of where I was going with it. It's like, are they like starting it, getting it warmed up to speed before they expect it to help? Or are they just like, bang, you're on?
Well, the article goes on. The Range Rover Evoque P300E should return 41 miles on a full charge and return 201 miles per gallon equivalent under European testing standards. The Disco Sport comes in slightly lower with 38 miles to a full charge and an estimated 175 miles per gallon equivalent. The hybrid system tucks away neatly with the lithium-ion pack stowed below the rear seats and the high-voltage junction box integrated under the front seats, and right next to it resides a belt-integrated starter generator inverter to send regenerated energy from the brakes to the battery pack or to an all-wheel drive system. Land Rover said both new models are available to order now in the UK, but those of us in the US will be left out. A Land Rover representative told Roadshow there are currently no plans to offer either model stateside.
Of course not. It's too cool. We can't be allowed to have cool stuff.
2019 Range Rover Sport HSE P400E review. And this is from thetruthaboutcars.com. The 2019 Land Rover, Range Rover Sport HSE P400E. And I want to read the parenthetical. Land Rover insists on the Land Rover Range Rover naming convention. And now that we've got the SEO friendly text out of the way, we'll be dropping that. I'm glad we're not the only ones that struggle with those long names. The performance numbers are solid. The MPGE number isn't terrible, but 19 miles per gallon in gas-only mode, that's not great. The electric-only mileage range is up to 19 miles, and if the battery's drained, you'll likely to see numbers closer to that 19 mile per gallon figure. The 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder gas engine makes 296 horsepower, while the electric motor it pairs with puts out 114 horsepower. Total system power is 398 horsepower, 472 pound-feet of torque. And the article says, yes, I know the horsepower numbers don't add up correctly. That's usually the case with hybrid systems. I like how they do this next paragraph. Land Rover / Range Rover would love to tell you about the plug-in hybrid's trickery and wizardry and how that makes this heavy SUV better at saving the planet than a similar size petrol-only luxury barge. But while there is cool green tech on hand, that tech takes a backseat to performance when you're behind the wheel.
As it should.
About the wizardry, here are a few examples of the Range Rover has cooked up. One neat trick is that if you're using the nav system to guide you, it will take traffic, environment, and other factors into account to operate the hybrid system to the most efficient manner. Trick number 2, you get regen not just when braking, but also when coasting.
Which means you won't coast as far. I mean, drag is drag.
Unless you're coasting downhill, then
You're
it's
still
helpful.
not going to coast as far.
True.
Maybe you don't want to, but nonetheless.
So it'd be like driving a series truck, let up off the fuel and it'd come to a complete stop.
Well, yeah, it's just you're trading wind resistance for electromechanical resistance.
Trick number 3, when in sport mode, the system sends extra charge to the battery so that the electric motor can be used to boost performance. Trick number 4, a save mode holds battery charge so it can be used later. And full EV mode can be activated via a button if the driver so chooses. And if you want to read the rest of the article, go out and check the show notes if you want to read that. But that's the Range Rover Sport HSE P400E.
By Land Rover.
To give you a sense of the cost, base price is $79,000 US. It's the 2019 model, by the way, is not available in Canada, but the 2020 model is available in Canada now. So base price is $79,000 American, as tested $93,200.
It included the optional things like batteries.
Price includes $1,300 destination charge in the US. Yikes.
Yeah.
Destination charge has gone way up. Review of the 2020 Land Rover Discovery from the Daily Herald in Utah. Don't often get to see people actually using a full-size Discovery, but I'll just bring a couple things out that I thought were...
We don't often quote publications in Utah either.
That's true. We had our first week ever with a Land Rover in Utah in early spring. On top of that, it turned out to be a perfect week for a more than capable luxury 4x4. Getting the car seat situated for maiden turned out to be a pretty easy operation, as we have found it can be difficult at times to get all the connections made correctly in new vehicles, especially if the anchors are not easily accessible. That's a good thing for them. I know people having families and getting the car seats in can be a challenge, especially getting them correctly locked in. Article goes on, we love the lane keep assist, a $2,900 option, along with the adaptive cruise control, which worked to perfection, keeping us centered in the lane and the proper distance behind the vehicle in front of us. And as I told you guys before we started the show, we're reading this article for this line alone. It made it easy to keep the Discovery at a steady 82 miles per hour on the freeway and not have to worry about the guy in front of us and what he had planned. I'm just imagining a Land Rover getting to 82 miles an hour and maintaining that on the highway.
Well, it is not a series truck after all.
The standard panoramic sunroof that encompassed almost the entire roof was like a movie for small maiden, as he continued to stare through it from his car seat, enjoying the clouds and other objects that went by. Usually he wants to watch a movie on an iPad to keep quiet, but not with this huge open space to check out. I like those panoramic roofs, are pretty cool. One thing we really liked was the addition of what Land Rover calls an inner tailgate. I had actually not heard of this before on the Disco, which turned out to be a small 6 to 7 inch high tailgate that would block things from falling out if the rear hatch was opened. So I hadn't heard about that before. Do you guys remember hearing about that inner tailgate?
Yeah, it was their replacement for the fact that the tailgate doesn't fold down anymore, because the inner tailgate still folds down.
Because it's a hatch. The whole thing's a hatch, right? Or is it split?
Right. No, it's hatch.
It's a hatch.
Yeah.
So that way stuff doesn't smash your feet upon opening the thing until you're ready to take your stuff out.
Exactly. And then you can still fold it down to sit on and such.
Or for when the hatch doesn't close properly in a few years, stuff doesn't fall out of its own accord.
And this is from a short article, autospies.com. Let's face it, even before the pandemic, there were a lot of brands and models languishing on the auto market. One of them is Jaguar. Nothing was really selling for them, and even trying to buy off the press with their media trip to Corsica didn't work for the I-Pace. What a galactic flop. So it's no surprise that unless there was some kind of miracle from them after all this ends, things are not looking good for them surviving. Big layoffs and insanely miserable sales for the first quarter, down 42% before the shutdown. So spies, and this is referring to their readers, so spies, will they survive? Should they survive? And does anyone outside of dealers and employees care if they do? I mean, if there even is a Jaguar, would you even want one to drive? Even in their prime, they were a hot mess, only saved by Land Rover.
Well, okay, that went too far.
Yeah, I have some issues there, but go ahead, Harold.
That part went a little too far, but I think I agree with the premise that I think they're dying. I think they're an idea who's past its prime. I mean, Jag's thing was hot sedans and sports cars, and those just aren't selling these days. And I think their survival method was to shift to crossovers and SUVs that people are buying. It ruins the spirit of the company. So yeah, I can see how they've gotten where they are.
And I don't think they had particularly good designs in the last, well, I guess the last iteration that didn't encourage, even when people were buying sedans, people weren't really moving over to Jaguar. They were buying Audi. And
well, there are too many good options. And I mean, yeah, they did have a reputation. I think calling them a hot mess in their prime is a bit of an overreach. I think they were phenomenal back in the day, and even in the 90s with the Jag V8, it was a decent car. But I think price for what you got and all the other things out there, there's a lot of competition in that sector. I mean, they were at the forefront in the 50s and even into the 60s, but those days are gone. I mean, they were the fastest cars on the planet for several decades. Grace, space, and pace. Now they have none.
Never really recovered from the British Leyland experience.
No, I think they did. I think the Ford experience actually was good for them. I think actually they had some good symbiosis. They did good things for Ford development-wise, and Ford did good things for them quality-wise. I think in the mid-'90s, they were producing top-quality product, and they were winning J.D. Power awards right and left.
Well, as we know, time will tell. We'll see.
Right.
I would not like to see Jaguar go away, but maybe it's sometimes that's what has to happen.
I would rather see them disappear than to see them making what they're making now and calling that a Jag.
Well, move on to some fun, I guess, the fun Land Rover news. Jeremy Clarkson, his vehicle of choice for the apocalypse is the Bowler Wildcat.
So I wonder if Hammond is saying, see, I told you.
I think this came from Drive Tribe, so he probably did. Yeah, I don't follow Drive Tribe.
Yeah, if you read the article, they've got the original Hammond video of him testing the Bowler Wildcat. Well worth another watch.
And a look at 10 iconic road trips done using Land Rovers. This is from Top Gear out of the Philippines. Let's read them all. 1. 1955 Oxford and Cambridge Far Eastern Expedition. A pair of Series 1 Land Rovers were plucked straight from the production line with a few added mods, naturally, to transport 6 Oxford and Cambridge uni students from London to Singapore. Yep, elbows very much in on this one. The desert between Damascus and Baghdad alone took 14 hours in quite hot temperatures. Upon reaching the Lido Road between Burma and India, the crew had to keep an eye out for thieves and headhunters, not maniac executives, but actual headhunters. 2. 1972 Camel Trophy USSR. The first-gen Disco took on over 1,600 kilometers through the USSR as part of the Camel Trophy, and judging by the picture above, it looks like a happy Labrador in a muddy pond. It is a great photo. Number 3, 1972 Transamerica Expedition. A pair of Rangies managed almost 29,000 kilometers spanning the length of America from Alaska to Cape Horn. Indeed, it took a full 99 days to cover the Darien Gap alone. It's a neat-looking photo there, too, if you're not familiar with that one.
And as I recall, it took Defenders to pull the Range Rovers through the Darien Gap.
Series 3, wasn't it? Series 2?
Yeah, you're right.
Series 3 with the Koenig winch.
Number 4, 1995 Hannibal Trail. This one recreated Hannibal's journey from France to Italy on an elephant. The second-gen Range Rover was the modern equivalent, and we're not going to make any jokes about the analogy of elephants and Range Rovers. No siree. They managed 3,000 meters above sea level.
I once worked on a Range Rover that has been on Hannibal's trail.
Number 5, 1998 London to Paris. This one is a biggie with 2 pre-production Disco 2s traveling some 30,000 kilometers, taking on massive temperatures, road hazards, gun-toting militia, and gasp monkeys.
They must be going London to Paris the long way, because it's a relatively short hop over through a tunnel, unless you go the exact opposite direction around the planet. One would hope so, otherwise they get very lost.
Number 6, the 2006 G4 Challenge. Barring the fitment of genuine Land Rover accessories, these 3 Disco 3s were standard and spent 28 days traveling 4,000 kilometers across Thailand, Laos, Brazil, and Bolivia. Number 7, the 2012 Journey of Discovery. This expedition deployed the actual 1 millionth Discovery built, a 4th-gen car, taking on around 12,900 kilometers across 50 days from Birmingham to Beijing. Unknown until now, most of those days were spent trying to navigate the Midlands fearsome spaghetti junction. Asterisk, not really, but it wouldn't have been surprising. I guess that's the system all around London, right? Number 8, the 2013 Silk Trail. Sure, you can go to Middlebrook to test out your soon-to-be-released new motor, or you can take it 16,800 kilometers from Solihull to Mumbai. Land Rover did just that with the then new Range Rover Hybrid, though rest assured, Millbrook is still fine, we think. Oh, that's a great picture. I think I remember that when they did that. That was right when we were starting the podcast, actually. I think I recall we talked about that one. Number 9, 2017 Land Rover Experience Tour Peru. And you take a look at the photo. It's a giant sand dune with a Disco 5. And finally, number 10, 2020 Defender Namibia. Yes, we did this one too. Read our review of a rather excellent new Defender and watch the video of Top Gear's own Namibian adventure. And there's also an elephant. That was kind of a nice little collection of iconic road trips.
And it's actually kind of nice that the new Defender has now actually done something that is on that list.
Agreed, and mostly at the hands of reporters, which is nice as well.
As opposed to skilled drivers.
Right. Presumably some of those were skilled drivers, but you know, you never know.
Yeah, you can't tell with those journalist types.
Will they do that again with a relaunch? The relaunch of the relaunch? Sales of board games and jigsaw soar during coronavirus lockdown. The Land Rover Defender Lego Technic set is included in that. Sales were up almost 60%. I think in America it's like $300 for one of those.
The question is whether or not the sales would have done well without the lockdown, because that was becoming pretty popular even before that. Well, I mean, it's the only way you can really assemble and disassemble your own Defender anymore.
I noticed, I looked it up on Amazon. You can purchase that, of course, on Amazon. And there's a third party has made a LED lighting set you can add.
Very nice.
It's actually pretty cool, yeah.
I'm just waiting for like the additional kits, like the truck cabs and the other, sliders you can put on it.
Can we get a small camera on there, then you can watch where it's going?
As long as you don't mind never getting the camera back.
This is an interesting, fascinating article I found, and it's the intersection between modern cars and technology, and it's something that happened in the UK, a crime, but it was written out of India. So here we go. See where this takes us. In Anglesey, United Kingdom, a senior citizen was killed with a crossbow in the wee hours. He was apparently on the roof to fix a satellite dish, and the murderer fired the crossbow that went straight through his abdomen and arm. When inquiring with crossbow dealers in the vicinity, the police listed out 15 to 20 suspects. Later, when things began to work out, the police settled down on one sports therapist who had purchased the suspected murder weapon.
Sports therapy. I'm just thinking, I'm delivering sports therapy with a crossbow. That's interesting.
However, the therapist declined and said that he recently sold it to a stranger. While the suspect was being questioned, the police found that his wife's Land Rover Discovery was burned down. That led to even more suspicion on the family. That's when the internet car technology of Land Rover Discovery came into use. So all the telematics, like when the car was used last, where did it go, and how much is the last drive running, is available on the mobile phone through the registration application. It's not the best sentence there, but basically all this information about the vehicle, where it is, where it's located, are doors open, are doors closed, and how long did it last, and all those kind of things are uploaded to a website, which I think Land Rover manages, if not mistaken.
So much for privacy.
Also, all this information is sent to the manufacturer through the black box. While the car was burned, the telematics and other information had already reached the office of JLR. That's when things started to unfold. Over time,
really too bad it couldn't have sent a signal saying, "I'm on fire. Please send somebody."
Help. Over time, the location of the car was found on the night of the murder. It was barely away from the victim's place. Also, the telematics recorded the period for which the doors and boot were open and shut. All this further made sense and helped the police in solving this murder case. As I said, intersection, as Harold said, privacy, your modern cars, and this is not just Land Rover does this, by the way. All modern cars have this telematics information.
That explains why there's a camera in the trunk, so that they know that there was a crossbow in there.
Just need a series truck.
Yeah, it's just going to say, if you want to kill people and not get caught, drive a series truck.
And the podcast does not recommend, encourage, or endorse the murder of another human being.
Just make sure you don't leave that nice little drippy brown trail up the street from all your leaking fluids, because they'll just follow that right to your door.
And also, don't take your cell phone with you, because that cell phone has all the same almost all the same information, at least where you were and where you were located.
Yeah, even if you turn it off, they can still turn it back on and get all that in.
Oh no! Well, they track you through directional finding off the towers. It's not that hard to do.
That's the news for April 2020 during pandemic. And now joining us for the Oxford in America update, back once again, president of Rove is David Short. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, John. Good to be here.
So what's happening with Oxford in the midst of pandemic 2020?
Yeah, in the midst of pandemic 2020, not a whole lot, but at the same time, a little bit. A lot of events being canceled. Obviously, it's hard to have Oxford come up to big shows and have a large crowd gather around in the times of social distancing and such. That said, Oxford's been doing a couple little one-off jaunts, little small trips with one person driving it or two people in it, just taking some quick trips around some scenic areas of New Jersey. Up in northern New Jersey, they went to some covered bridges and went down some historic roads. And that's where she stopped rolling, suffering from a fatal head gasket repair. And that's where she's at the moment, getting her head gasket fixed.
Yeah, I saw you posted a photo this past week of the head gasket had been repaired and looked very, very nice.
Well, at this moment in time in the world, the head gasket is not repaired, but the head's back from machine. I imagine in the next few days or so, once the mailman cooperates and other things go forward, the head gasket will be repaired. I'm hoping to have Oxford operational again in another 5 days or so. Kind of doing some research, talking back to the fine folks from the last Overland. Seems that the head was off Oxford quite a few times between Thailand and London, and they said they repaired the head gasket with a hammer. I don't know that story.
Oh dear!
Ow!
But they put the same head gasket back on multiple times, and
that's a recipe for disaster. So yeah.
Well, it's a recipe for what happened. Yeah, the head gasket was blown. But that said, we're getting a great head gasket in from one of Dixon's friends. He's sending it down to us in New Jersey. One of our friends of the Oxford project, Ben, who's been on the show. Ben's helping do the repair work for it, so we're really pleased that Ben's helping us out and donating his time and skills and effort. And we hope to have and they got it machined really well, got the valves touched in and some and a good flattening of the head, good magnaflux of it came out true and good. So it's actually a good result of a possible bad result. And
was there any damage to the block?
They're not reporting any damage at this time, so I'm thinking we're okay.
Looked like a pretty good burn between 3 and 4.
Yeah, very, very good burn between.
I've seen that erode blocks before. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm taking Ben's word for it. I'm 5 hours car ride from Oxford at the moment. It's kind of hard. It's like a separation anxiety type of thing.
Well, but I'm sure he knows how to check for it. So
yeah. Ben's got it, and he says it's okay. So I trust him on that. And he's a good Series 1 guy.
So we dodged a bullet. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but from that, we hope that we can continue on in late summer. We're getting a lot of. I mean, if you're paying attention to the news, a lot of information about the social distancing easing after the June-July timeframe. So I'm hoping in that time frame we can start getting things back on course. There's a big event out in the Colorado area for late June. Yeah, late June we're hoping to, or late July rather. Late July. Hope we can do that and then get it back out to the West Coast for August. And we look to be on track okay for our cross-country trip in the October timeframe, the September-October timeframe. I mean, that's looking at it through today's lenses. This pandemic has given us swings and twos and fro's before. So that's the best planning we have at the date.
And I'm hoping there's been no announcement yet as to Vintage Grand Prix happening in Pittsburgh or not. But it seems like it could, because it has built-in social distancing, since it's in on a golf course. I'm hoping we can still get Oxford to Pittsburgh at least.
Yeah, it's still on the calendar. Waiting to see what happens.
Are the events that had been scheduled through, I guess, June or July, are they up in the air? Are they officially canceled? Or is this a kind of like an invite-only situation now?
Everything's canceled up into, including the birthday party bash up at Ottawa Valley Land Rovers. They made the regrettable announcement of postponing or canceling that for the year. So that's June. That was late June 20 something or other. So we're clean slate until then for large gathering events. Like I said, I'm trying to salvage the time we have and do a couple of one-on-one outings. I got a couple of nearby things to kind of look at with Oxford together in the area. We'll hope to get some videos of those put out. I've been visiting some of the historical things of America around the Virginia area. See if we can get that going in the month of May, early June. But right now, as of to June, the Ottawa Valley Land Rover birthday bash, that's the last one, the latest one to cancel out on us. And that's where we're clear till then.
I guess the next one up after that would be Lucky Eight's thing on the 4th of July.
Yep, that was it.
And they're still a go?
At the moment, yeah. And their event was they were gonna take a off-country trip down some of the cold country roads on the western Pennsylvania. Western New York, and kind of do a 4th of July camping trip with it. That's a small, not a large crowd, so I think that's still in good shape. But
Okay.
like I said, I don't want to promise anything at this point. It's tough to promise things.
Well,
at this point.
that's not your decision to make, I don't think, on that one. So
Yeah. There you go.
And I assume Oxford's being disinfected every day, right?
I don't know that, but when I get Oxford from the grimy grips of New Jersey, you can be sure I will use appropriate disinfectant.
a good idea for anything coming out of New Jersey.
Exactly.
Apparently, Oxford itself has gotten COVID-19 of some sort, respiratory ailment.
Let me give your listeners the first widely publicized news, the first tidbit. This is an exclusive for the Centresteer podcast. If you missed Oxford in America, for all of our international listeners, while she's in the United States due to COVID and et cetera, Oxford will continue her world tour in 2021 at a little bit more of a southern latitude. She will be going down to the land of hobbits. I am working with the folks in New Zealand, and she will leave the United States sometime in the December, January timeframe and show up in New Zealand around the 1st of January timeframe. And then she's scheduled for about a 6-month run of the islands down in New Zealand. So that's exciting. Oxford will continue her world tour.
Excellent. That's good news. Very, very good news.
And is Australia on the calendar as well when it goes to New Zealand?
There's a lot of talk. It hasn't been set up quite yet, but lots of prep work, and people are investigating laws and import procedures and all that stuff. But has not been put on the calendar, but there is enthusiasm in that direction.
It would be a short hop. It would be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one of our Australian listeners can reach out to you and get that sorted out, or to the
work out through Adam. Adam's working all these details. I can help out as much, but Adam's the ringleader of this circus.
Well, it is his truck, so it makes sense.
Yes, since it's close to the Antarctic, has there been any discussion of it making the short jaunt?
No talks of it chasing penguins around the Antarctic. No,
come on.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we need video of that, and we need stickers. We want a sticker on the pole.
Right.
Any other news?
No, that's it. I can tell you this COVID thing's really a bummer, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Puts a damper on many things. Many things, indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
we are. From the club's perspective, we're still trying to get our Wintergreen April event possibly taking off in mid-July for a reschedule if we can get the Virginia to cooperate. The Mid-Atlantic Rally is still on schedule, but again, that's an October event. And that's where Oxford's supposed to end her cross-country trip at. So that's all still in the future crystal ball.
Well, the nice thing about Mar is you're always at least 6 feet from somebody else.
Yeah, we've got a lot of space at the farm, so that's a good thing. It's just a matter of moving people around the country, and the traveling and all. Yeah. But yeah, that's where the club's at. So we're hoping we can recover the last part of the year with this, and we hope everyone. Again, in the mantra, everything else, we want to get things back on track, but we don't want to make things unsafe for anybody. So we're always battling those two things.
Will there be a requirement at Mar that vehicles have to be 6 feet away from each other?
No, we can start that. We are looking at things like online registration only, and some other things are changing the format to make things a little less hand-to-hand contact. But it's all discussions. We have about a club discussion about once a week on email about updates and options. And so we're actively pursuing the future. Just don't know where we're going to end up at yet.
Well, thanks very much for giving us an update on Oxford in America 2020 and also Mar.
Thanks, John, and everyone. I always love coming on the show. Thanks.
And now on the Centresteer podcast, I'm very excited to have with us Zlatev from Bulgaria. And I'm very excited because I'm a Bulgarian American, and I'm very excited to hear and talk to you, Zlati, about Land Rovers and Land Rover enthusiasts in Bulgaria. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, I'm saying your name right, correct? Zlatev?
Yes, exact.
Because I never learned Bulgarian. I didn't learn any Macedonian, so I'm just hoping I'm right.
Apparently your instincts are good.
To be 100% open with you, there is no difference between Bulgarian and Macedonian.
Exactly.
If one language for 100%, you speak the other and opposite.
My grandmother was from Sofia, and my grandfather was from near Lake Ohrid in Macedonia. So I have Bulgarian and Macedonian roots. Anyway,
Yes.
So as I told you in email, that's just, I don't know, it excites me and probably doesn't excite anybody else but me. So
Well, John's easily excited.
yes. So Zlati, tell us about the Land Rover Club of Bulgaria. How did it start, and how many trucks and how many folks participate?
The start was 15 years ago, 2005 in October. The start was very simple and very, how to say, as it's happened always like this, 9 people that are Land Rover enthusiasts, the people that are driving Land Rovers, or the people that, like me in this time, dreaming to drive Land Rover. We are according the law, we are registered in the court like club. We are registered according the all type of different government registration. And the most important thing is that we are part of the big official family of Land Rover clubs in Europe, because we have officially permission from England, from Land Rover, to use the logo of the car and to use the all attributes of the Land Rover. And when we start, all the time that our club operate, we are always very close with the Land Rover importer in Bulgaria. All these years, there is only one company that import Land Rover in Bulgaria as a brand, as a automotive brand. And all the time, we are in very close connection with this company. We are somehow partners, somehow they sponsorship us and things like this. We start, as I mentioned, 9 people, but in current moment, we are close to 70 people, 70, with different cars. The most popular Land Rover in Bulgaria as a car, this is the Discovery. And this is the first generation of Discovery. We, of course, have some people that are driving the Defender, some people that are driving Discovery second generation, and very limited number like me. My car is Range Rover Classic, first generation of Range Rover, one very rare modification, so-called soft dash, with a very rare diesel engine. And what to say about the club? Club is like, I think, like any Land Rover club in the world. The most important thing is to drive together. Here in Bulgaria, we are a very, very small country. But we have very nice mountains, very nice nature here. And during the years, we have possibility to drive together to many places, to many mountains. One of the topics of our outdoor activities is that more than 10 years ago, we start our collaboration with the national parks in Bulgaria. What I mean is, I call it collaboration, that we help to national parks to keep and to build some infrastructure, to clean some places and things like this, because it was very important to show to people in Bulgaria that driving off-road is not always something bad, because you know how the hiking tourists react when they see the car in the mountain, and they say, oh, this car here, this petrol machine, this is not place from the mountain. But in the end of the year, these 10 years, we are very well recognized as a people that really help the authorities to keep the nature in Bulgaria. And this is extremely important for us because, as I mentioned, we are a very small country. And when you have the good reputation, you can catch good opportunities, because to enter and to drive inside in the national park, you know even better than me how it's organized in the States. And here is almost the same with rangers, with security guards and things like this is not possible. But when you go there to help with something, you are more than welcome.
You're kind of like volunteer park rangers then, in a way.
It's something like this. Let's say that something like this, because when we go to help, we go sometimes more than 30 cars. And you can imagine that this is 50 or 60 people that can work something. And our help is more than appreciated, because if they need to make some change in the infrastructure, to build some rest place, or to paint some signs, or to do something that need more people to work, in this case, we are very warm welcome. And when we come not only with one guy with a car, but with family, with wives, with kids, and this has become something really very important.
We here in the States, we call that tread lightly when you're going off road and you try to have minimal impact on the environment. It's tread lightly.
Exact. This is the idea, because here in Bulgaria, what we say, when you leave the nature, live in the better condition that you enter in nature. That means that it's normally for us, and not only for me, but for everybody, not only for our club, but in general. So what I say that one of the important things for our club is this, let's say, volunteer and nature-friendly trips and things like this. Of course, the other part of the club life is sport. It's normally to be like this, because as everywhere in the world, here in Bulgaria also have some sport off-road, let's say, something like trophy, something like trial, something like cross-country. And like club, we have during the years up to 5 participants in these national championships. Now, in current moment, we have only one team that is in the trophy championship in Bulgaria. Somehow the club support this person because this is our member. He used one defender for these sport events.
What about the sport event? Is it an off-road sporting event or is it some other sport?
No, it's off-road. It's off-road. Trophy, like
competitive off-road then of some sort.
Yes, exact. There is depends of point of view. For me, it's not interest, because for me, the most important part of let's say off-roading is to travel in the nature. Let's say if you look more, let's say more in details, from my point of view, there is few types of off-road. One is so-called, or I think it's so-called, it's expedition off-road. That means that you travel a few days, you sleep on the tent, you have some campfire and things like this. Mm-hmm. This is my type of off-road.
That's, mine too, yeah.
Yeah, we call that overlanding.
Exact. This is the terminology. Yes, this is when you have some friends together with you, and you in the campfire you make some barbecue, you drink one beer in the evening. They have some pleasant company to be together in the mountain.
Right, you burn some meat and you tell some lies.
Always.
Yeah.
Only one beer?
During the night, it can be even more.
Or what about Bulgarian plum wine?
Plum, it's not wine. This is
it's a brandy, right? It's a plum brandy. Yes.
It's only plum in Bulgaria. As in country around, we have plum brandy, we have grape brandy. Here in Bulgaria, most popular is grape brandy.
And what's it called?
It's rakia.
Rakia, that's it.
In Macedonia, they say Lozova rakia. In Bulgaria, we say Grozdova rakia. It's one and the same. It's great.
Rakia, yes, nice.
This is the, let's say, the national alcoholic drink.
Yes, it is.
Bourbon is something typical from the States, from this part of the Eastern Europe. Rakia is very popular.
So when you go off road and you're doing like an overlanding expedition, are you just staying in Bulgaria? Do you go into other countries? And what are the trails like? Is it English green laning, or is it more rugged trails with rocks or mud? Or
for sure it's mountain terrain with mud, with rocks, with this. Here in Bulgaria is situated the highest mountain and the highest peak on Balkan Peninsula. We are almost 3,000 meters above sea level, which is something that 10,000 feet, I think.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah, something like this. And we have very high mountains here. Some of them, as I mentioned already, they are national park, but some of them are free to drive. And for us, it's normally to drive in high altitude, 5 to 6 to 7 feet above sea level. And the terrain for us is always, let's say that off-road and the mountain are always going together, because to stay in the valley, to have off-road in the mud next to the river is not something interest in general. And because more than a half of the terrain in Bulgaria is mountains, it's very easy to find place where to drive.
Right.
Even from my window now, I can see mountain that is 2,300 meters above sea level.
Wow.
Here next to Sofia, we have mountain, and it's very, 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 very easy to find mountain to go there.
Right.
In general, our off-road is mud plus rock, really. But the mountain terrain. Let's say in states you have the same terrain in Appalachians.
Mm-hmm.
In this mountain, because the Rockies are higher than here, but the Appalachian mountains in the same like our mountains here in general.
A lot like what we have here, definitely.
Yeah, this is when I get to say I visited Bulgaria, Macedonia back in 2005, and I can see why my relatives moved to Western Pennsylvania, because it looks a lot, or it reminded me, and I'm sure it reminded them, of home. In Bulgaria, reminded me a lot of Western Pennsylvania, with rolling hills and some high mountains, but not super high. And yeah, I can see it.
Exactly.
It's a lot alike. So this state park, or excuse me, national park, is that the Central Balkan National Park that's like north of Plovdiv?
Exact. This is the park that Central Balkan National Park is one of the. There are. It's not so sophisticated like in the States that you have national, that you have state parks, you have national forest. No, here in Bulgaria we have two types of parks. First, this is national parks that are under central government jurisdiction, and Central Balkan is exact like this. Also, we have Riva Mountain, we have Pirin Mountain National Park, and we have Vituša. Vituša is next to Sofia. And also we have 11, we call them nature parks, that also are like park, like with rangers, with everything, but they are one step under the national parks.
We would call that a state park here in the U.S. because you have the national, and then you have state. So it sounds like a state park.
Something like this.
Yeah.
And what we do, our main activities in current moment are focused exactly in this park that you mentioned, Central Balkan Park, because first it's let's say that access is by car is easier than in Riva or in Pirin. And second is that during the years we build a relationship there, and this is the biggest park, like square kilometers, and there the people are people that know us. This year is very important to know that this year we already have approved program, and we will go also to Riva National Park. This is south of Sofia, south of the capital. And we'll go there in very, very, very high mountain altitude to rebuild one alpine chalet. This is, in Bulgaria, we say zaslon, or it's this is chalet, but without people there. It's only for emergency shelter. And will be very, very, very nice, because there is one road that will pass on the altitude of 2,500 meters above sea level. This is something like 7,500, 8,000 feet above sea level.
Wow.
And this is our plan, because every year in the beginning of the year, we create our plan for the year. And normally there are 10 to 12 different events during the year. And for this year, for example, we have more than 14 events, that one of them already passed in last weekend. And there was one winter trip in Riva Mountain. And now we have planned, and everybody from the club members know what is the program for the year. And everybody plan where he can participate or she can participate, because we have some female members also, and what is interest for him, because some of the events are related with, as you say, overlanding. Some of the events are, let's say, more leisure, like we have always in the second part of the June is our yearly meeting or yearly jamboree, that we need to make official meeting. All members come together to decide what will happen next year and things like this. It's normal for
a business meeting, if you will.
Yes, something like this, because in every 3 years it's also the election meeting. Yes, and after this official meeting, About the internal organization is that everybody need to participate in the club life, and everybody can propose event, everybody can organize the trip, and everybody can do something that is interest for him and to invite the other club members to join him. This is our, let's say, more democratic platform, because everybody is part of this program, and everybody can change this program. Everybody can propose what club need to do.
It also makes it a lot easier on the activities director, because that person would otherwise have to plan everything all the time, and that's a lot of work.
It was in the past, it was me, because in the past it was very easy for everybody to say, yes, the chairman or the president need to organize club life. And for us, for me as let's say as a politician, was very difficult and very long way to pass to explain that club is members. What mean members? Everybody. And everybody need to be part of this club, not only to expect that somebody will invite him and to say, hey, here is my GPS track, let's go to this trip. No, if you want to be part of this club, you need to do also something for the club.
Good idea.
It's a great approach. It's a very good approach. Yes, it is. In the mountains, is it, you said south of, just because I visited there, you said Rila, R-I-L-A, is that correct?
Rila, yes, Rila, exactly.
I visited there when I was in Bulgaria. It's a really cool mountainous area, and there's a monastery, I want to call it, or an abbey of some sort.
Exactly. This is Rila Monastery there.
Yes,
and
yes.
The place that we will go to visit by cars is in 3-hour hiking from the monastery.
Oh, wow.
We go deep in the mountain to make this restoration of this small chalet.
So you have events, and you have sounds like a good dozen events or so throughout the year. Is there like a main event? Is there one event that everyone you like to get to? Maybe is it like a car show, or is it an off-roading event or an expedition of some sort?
No. There is no. The other principle that we use is that nothing is obligatory. Nothing. Even the yearly election are not obligatory, and everybody decide when he can come and what he can do. Of course, it's very important to know that as a club we have membership fee. It's for sure. It's not a big amount of money, but everybody pays something for the club. After that, we reinvest this in club merchandising, and every year we have some different merchandise for the club members.
Ooh, like shirts and hats and.
Last year there was axes.
And you mean like a chopping axe, like for cutting down wood?
Yes, if we need something to prepare fire or something. Now everybody know the club with club logo, very nice small axe to use, because when you're overlanding, there is a few things that you always need to have in the car. 3 years ago, we have small emergency first aid kits that are prepared for the club with club logo. And this was the gift. And everybody in the car have now, if something happen and somebody cut the finger or something, he's ready to cure himself.
That's fantastic. I like the axe idea, and the first aid kit is great. Those are.
Well, you said there was something that everybody has to have in their car. I'm thinking case of oil.
What is very important, this is not a joke, this is the truth.
We know.
Oh, yeah.
So in the last years, one of our members here, very active member, he's also the owner of one of the best Land Rover services in Sofia. And when we travel with Peter, because he know what to do if something happen.
Always good to have one of those kind of guys around, definitely.
He's fantastic. He have one very nice 35 Defender on the base, and he have everything there. And the most important, he know what to do. If something happen, Peter is here with the car. We have compressors, we have instruments, everything is and Land Rover is simple. There is no electronic in, let's say, Discovery second generation, yes, but the oldest one, there is no such electronic. And when you have the basic mechanic skills, you can fix more of the things.
In a good Land Rover, there's no electronics.
Like my Range Rover is last generation without any electronics.
Good for you.
Even there is no ABS on the brakes.
You said you have a Range Rover Classic. What year is it?
Yes, a Range Rover Classic 2.5-liter diesel engine. This is a so-called 300 TDI engine.
Yeah.
And this is one of the last produced ever Range Rover Classic. That means that is in the so-called, I think maybe soft dash. That means that inside he's like the second generation of Range Rover, this P38. And
the soft dash I think was actually the disco stuff, wasn't it? Isn't it similar to the disco?
Mixture between disco and P38.
Okay.
But in the body of first Range Rover Classic. Very nice car and very rare car. Yeah. Even guys from the Polish Land Rover Club joke with me that such car do not exist, but I proved this, that the car exists. And after we start to make some statistic how many cars of this type enter in Bulgaria, and there are less than 10 with this combination of engine, with gearbox, and with other things. This is very rare combination because that Range Rover normally is with this awful Italian VM diesel engines, or for you in the States, it's normally 3.5 and the 3.9 liter petrol engine. But here in Europe, it's always diesel in 90% of the cases.
Yes, actually, I was going to ask about that. What's fuel like in Bulgaria? Is it so you're mainly a diesel area then, right?
Because the torque is higher, and there is a people even in our club. There is few cars that are. We have one guy with 4.4 liter engine in the car, but what is normal here for Bulgaria is. If you have a nice and good petrol engine, to put this, how to say, maybe in States you don't use this, but gas installation to put the propane.
Propane,
propane, and to use this like fuel, not like because something like 20 or 30 liters per 100 kilometers is too expensive. The price of the petrol here is totally different than in the States.
Right.
Let's go back to that sporting competition, because I'm a little curious about that. Is it just a Bulgaria competition, or do other countries in the area participate? And is it just Land Rovers, or is this other makes and models?
No, they are mixed. Only in Great Britain they have this 100% Land Rover events and for modified cars. Here they are mixed. They are very popular here. A lot of people from Germany, from Poland, from Hungary, from in Serbia, from Macedonia, from Romania came here, and a lot of people from Bulgaria go to these countries. One of the last year, one very big event was here. This is Balkan off-road marathon, one very, very big event. This is something like Balkan Dakar, smaller, very, very smaller of Dakar. Yeah, it's true. But this year they will not organize here. They will organize, the Bulgarian people will organize this marathon in Tunisia, not here in Bulgaria. In general, it was very popular. Now, let's say it's not so popular again, but there is, as I mentioned, is classical type of trophy. Let's say camel trophy, or even here in Bulgaria, we have Rainforest Challenge Series. Last 4 years, so we have Rainforest Balkans here, from like this that they make in Malaysia. But this is typical, very, very, very hard trophy event. Very popular in Bulgaria in the past was this speed off-road like Baja in the Mexico, like Baja 1000 or Baja 500. What they do with these big names in the States, like PJ Baldwin or Robbie Gordon, what they do in the States. Some people try to copy them here in Bulgaria, but these events continue. But it's not so popular as it was, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago. There are two directions. One is the hard terrain. The other is the speed.
So the club, you say there's about, I guess you have 70 members, and you have a range of vehicles. Sounds like you have Discovery 1s, you have Defenders and Discovery 2s and some Range Rovers. Do you have series trucks? Are they popular in Bulgaria and in the club?
Only two of them.
Okay.
The series, we have one friend of us that have short-based series 2B, and one another guy that also have he make a big restoration project and also have series 2B pickup truck. And this is all, only two. They are very rare here, extremely rare.
Yeah.
They're starting to get that way. They're becoming more collectible, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Even my car, it's very curious to see that in Europe, my car, when I buy my car, I buy for around, let's say, around $5,000. Now I can sell my car in Germany, for example, if I decide I never will sell my car for sure.
You are a true Land Rover owner, yes. Not selling the car.
Well, you can't sell it until you have at least 2 or 3 others.
Yes.
No, it's the price now is more than $15,000.
Wow.
It's even my car, even my Range Rover become collectible because my car is produced 1994. That means that after 1995, that means that this year my car will become in the category of young timers. And here in Bulgaria is nothing, but in Germany, in normal part of Europe, young timer is young timer always. And it's not only good car, but it's also some type of retro car.
And it's just legal, just old enough to be legal here in the States too. We can't get anything unless it's at least 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I know that you have big business with Defenders in the States, and older than 25 years are very well appreciated.
Yes, they are. I'm looking at mine, as a matter of fact, right through the window there. I imported a 1987 in 2012, and Harold did the restoration.
Well, I have a question about the trucks, not about the club. You talked about the sorts of off-roading you do. What sort of modifications do people do to their vehicles, or are they able to do that there?
Here is still able to do, because
Okay.
I will give example with my car, but this is mass practice in not only in the club, but also among the hunters in Bulgaria, among everybody that use off-road vehicle for some purpose. One of the things is that always what we start everybody first is suspension. My lift is 2-inch lift, for example.
Yep.
Of course, it's very, very cheap and very easy because we are in Europe. Great Britain is nearby yet, because after Brexit we will see what will happen even in this point of view.
Yeah.
But it's very cheap to order some kind of suspension, what you want. I use one special expedition suspension with 2 inches lift. Also, it's very popular, and a lot of people make themselves bumpers. In Germany, for example, this is 100% illegal, but here is still legal. But now it's become difficult and more difficult if you buy car with bumpers and you go to the police to make the new registration. Technically, here also is illegal, but still a lot of cars like mine, if I don't sell my car, I have no problem with the bumpers. I have front bumper that is custom made for my Range Rover. I have rear bumper with the fifth tire stay out of the car in the special
spare tire.
Special made, yes, because I have no place in the car. And of course, all this modification that you can imagine about the snorkels, about the lights, about all these things. But here in our club, I mention again, except one car in the club, all others are more expedition and overlanding cars than something different. Okay. They are prepared for safety trip in the wood. Let's say that there is no heavy cages or things like this.
Do you have a winch in your front bumper?
Of course. Past 10 years, I use it twice, but I have it. American one, Mile Marker.
Is it nylon or do you have steel cable?
More than 10 years, I have my steel cable, but I changed it now with nylon because steel cable, is very difficult when you need to you use it and after that to put back on the winch. It's always a problem. I personally prefer nylon cable, and the new generation, they are most durable than the previous one. And I use this. And something very important, John, my car stay in the dark garage. I have no problem with sunlight out this cable.
That helps.
Yes.
Yeah, you realize after about the fourth hike up the hill with the cable just how heavy a steel cable really is,
and how dangerous it is for the hands, because
cut you open if you don't wear gloves.
Yes.
It sounds like they do a lot of the same kinds of modifications we do, and perhaps in the same order.
Rock sliders on the side, or any limb risers, or
Yes. I also have rock sliders. It's very important because when we need to use high jack, it's good to use rock sliders for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What other modifications? Let's say, do you roof racks, extra fuel, extra water? Are refrigerators portable refrigerators are very big here in the U.S. along with rooftop tents and awnings. Is that the same in Bulgaria?
No, about refrigerators, yes. Rooftops are not so popular in Bulgaria. It's I have a big dream to have one of these, but in my garage there is no opportunity. Car cannot enter with rooftop on the top.
Well, you can enter once, but the tent won't be usable after that.
Absolutely. No, roof tents are no. In our club, there is, I think, nobody yet have roof tents. About the refrigerator, yes, the beer is always beer. You know that there is two types of beer, cold beer and the hot beer. How you say, it's Muir time.
So what about other countries? You mentioned Poland. Of course, I'm curious about Macedonia. Do you get over towards Macedonia or Romania, Hungary?
So this moment we didn't travel abroad. Maybe this year some of our members will go to participate in one event in Ukraine. The Polish guys came here in Bulgaria once. The Serbian guys came here. I travel, but this is not club event. This is my private event with a friend of mine, also big Land Rover fanatic. We go to Malta and visit Land Rover enthusiasts there, but it was more than 10 years ago, something like this. But in general, we never organized a trip abroad yet, official one as a club members.
All right, let's talk about you. How did you get into Land Rovers? When was the first your first memory or first truck you had?
I have very clear memory because originally my education is geology. I'm a geologist. And 1997, the August, I entered in Eastern Africa in Mozambique to work as a geologist in one very big gemstone project in Mozambique. This was the days that I fell in love in Land Rover. Then my specialty was gemstones. And there is a big project about rose quartz, about precious tourmaline, about some aquamarines and things like this. And as geologist, I have two company cars, both of them was Defenders. And this was the time when I fell in love in Land Rover. And this is, one and forever. Then now there are more than 23 years that I'm a Land Rover fanatic. Africa is Africa. Africa is like, like Latin America or like some places in Asia. There, off-road is still not something that you do for pleasure. This is something that you do every day because you need to travel normally.
It's what now you do to get from here to there, pretty much.
Every day, 36 kilometers in one direction. This is something like more than 20 miles in the direction. 20 miles in direction, that means in the morning 20 miles to go to work, and at the end of the day 20 miles back, I'll go to home. And this was off-road. Really hard off-road because even I crossed one very big river. And one evening I chased from one very big crocodile in this river. And it's more than 10 feet crocodile was in the river. And the 10 feet crocodile.
Every day you were crossing a river twice, and there was crocodiles in this river.
Crocodile-infested river in the middle of your daily commute. All righty.
No, during the day, they are not there. One evening in the dark part of the day, in the evening, when I need to cross the river by my Land Rover, I saw the crocodile inside in the river. And what happened that I was young, I was crazy, and I increased my speed with the idea to chase the crocodile with Land Rover. But he go away. He went up.
You face down a crocodile with your Land Rover.
It was, when you are young and crazy, you don't think what can happen.
Hey, you survived. You survived, right?
I survived. I'm not sure if I catch the one because it was really very big crocodile because place that crocodile stay. And the next day I measured the place. It was more than 10 feet, 3.5 meters.
And what was the Land Rover? Was this the Defender?
Yes, it was even not Defender. Was 110. This is before Defender, because you know that before to introduce Discovery, there was no Defender. There was 19 and 110. And this
That is correct, yes.
Exact. It was with a very simple engine. It was something like Perkins engine with 60 horsepower. It was nothing special, but for my condition was more than perfect.
Did you own that vehicle? Was it yours?
No, it was company vehicle.
Okay. It wasn't a 1987, was it?
Yes, 1997, 1998. I stayed a year and a half in Mozambique.
Okay. Was the truck a 1987?
No, truck I think was 1994 or something like this. It was South African produce.
The reason I ask is my 1987 110 had spent time in Africa, so the previous owner told me, and we think it was Tanzania. I was just asking. You never know. There might have been a weird coincidence.
But is it left side
right-hand
drive?
No, it's right-hand drive.
Exact. Yeah, it's from there.
Yeah.
It's like mine. Because in Mozambique also it doesn't matter that Mozambique is part of former Portuguese Empire, but they also use like Tanzania, like Kenya, like South Africa. They use the right-hand drive.
But that's a cool story. Although you probably shouldn't chase an alligator, but still a cool story.
Well, I mean, it sounds like an alligator might have been big enough to reupholster the seats on the 110 or something.
What was the next truck, or how long did it take you to get your own? I assume you go back to Bulgaria at some point.
Yes, I came back here in Bulgaria. I stopped to work as geologist. I entered in the different business, in beverage business. I start to work with beer companies. Even when we create the club 2005, I have no Land Rover car. And people choose me like a president even without owning a car, only because the idea. And 2008, I find my Range Rover, a friend of mine that is very technically very well educated about Land Rovers, call me and say, you cannot even imagine what's here in one place for second-hand car. I find something that is not exist. And I say, what is this that not exist? Oh, this is Range Rover Classic. This is 300 TDI engine. This is Borg Warner transfer box. This is with very nice gearbox. This is with this and that. And go to the car. I sold the car. I have money in my pocket, and everything began with my car.
Did you tell your club members before you had your own Land Rover? Did you tell them about facing down a crocodile? Because that might have swayed them to make you president.
No. There are some pictures in internet. If you send me your mail, I will send, and I have your mail. I will send you one link in one place that you can see some pictures with my Land Rovers and everything. Crocodile, I have no picture of the crocodile, but you can see all these things. Unfortunately, this is in one open forum. This is Bulgarian Off-Road Forum, and everything is in Bulgarian. But you can see the pictures when we finish our conversation. I will send you the link to see the pictures.
Absolutely, thank you. What about future ideas do you have for Land Rovers? And as we now ask all our guests, what do you think of the new Defender?
Defender is always Defender first. There is, about new Defender only good things or only bad things. What I wait is first to see this Defender, because here in Bulgaria, we'll see maybe it was original plan was Defender to come here end of March, but now they postponed for end of April. We have our big club event, yearly event in June, as I mentioned. And for sure, I will take from a local dealer here of Land Rover. They promised to give me one Defender to represent to the club the car. And in general, I don't know. To be 100% honest, I don't know. What I did this year with one Discovery 5 is that I take one Discovery 5 together with our club members in the mountains, and in any place that the other cars pass, very well prepared Discovery first generation pass, and Discovery fifth generation without any preparation also pass. If you ask about the question about overlanding with the new Defender, I think it will be suitable. Because I don't know how it's in the States, here in Bulgaria, even in Africa, the places that real off-road is everyday business is every day there become less number.
May not know, here in the United States, Defender has not been available since the mid-90s. So this is will be a new model for the U.S.
Yeah, but you have something extremely rare. You have this NAS specification, these 80s Defenders that are amazing, with 3.5 petrol engine that are produced especially for North American market. But they are extremely rare. I know.
And very expensive.
Yeah.
If our listeners wish to hear more about the Bulgaria Club and see, and maybe even see these photos that you'll have, where can they go? Where can they find you? Do you have a website? Is it just on Facebook?
Yes, we have a website. We have a very small English section also in this website. I will send to you our website. Our website is let's say very well organized, because one of our members is IT specialist and he created a site. There you can see everything about first the history of the club, because there is a lot of pictures, a lot of history, what we do, how we drive. You can see all these events and all these things that we already discussed. You can see in pictures. Also about the club, there is mails for contacts and for everything. But I will send to you all contact details, links to our site, and you can introduce to everybody that is interested to contact about everything. Everybody that want to contact with our club is more than welcome.
Wonderful. That's great. I appreciate that, Zlati. And that'd be nice. I'm sure there'll be, I hope there's more than just me interested in the Bulgaria Club, being a Bulgarian American. But
I was just curious. You mentioned that one of your members is an IT specialist. It seems like a lot of the Rover people in our country are IT people. Are there a lot of IT people in Rovers in your country?
For sure, one or two.
Oh, okay.
Very, very different people, because I'm in charge with the trade of the beverages now. I trade with wine. Some engineers, we have, as I mentioned, one mechanic. We have people that are in very, very, very different part of the different businesses. But if you ask me about IT, there is pure IT person is one, and his wife. There are two. Two.
Seems like half of the people here in this country are IT people.
Depend. In Bulgaria also become very modern, especially this outsourcing business, because, for example, Hewlett-Packard have here great business in Bulgaria, very big one. Here is the call center for half of Europe here in Bulgaria, but let's not discuss about IT people.
Hey, close. Slow down, Zlati. I'm an IT guy.
There is a lot of jokes about ITs, and
what you don't know, Zlati, is that John is not only Bulgarian; he's also a Bulgarian beer man.
This is what mean beer man.
John is invested in a brewery.
3 years I work for the Heineken here in Bulgaria, and 3.5 years for the Carlsberg in Bulgaria. Oh, nice. I have totally 6.5 years in beer business.
Nice.
I start my business career in beers.
Zlati, I really appreciate this. It was really cool. If no one else but me is excited that you came on the show, that's enough, because, I think it's cool to hear about what's going on in Bulgaria, back in the home country. My grandmother's from Sofia originally. My grandfather's from Macedonia. So cool to connect with what I see as my motherland.
Keep in touch, and I will send you what I promised tomorrow. Not tomorrow for me, for you midnight, but to Tomorrow we will have some links, we will have some pictures, not only for the club, but also what I promised from Mozambique. And if some any other question appear, we can keep in touch, of course.
Absolutely.
You are more than welcome to come here again. Everybody, you and Harold and everybody that is interested in Land Rover is more than welcome in Bulgaria to drive here with us, to drink beer or what you want.
Wonderful.
So just show up and wave a green oval around and somebody will find us?
Yeah, depend, but let's say this is good start to see the green oval.
That's right. Exactly. As Zlati, seriously, appreciate it. Very kind of you to come on the show. And I know it's late for you and you had other things going on. I appreciate taking the time. And I appreciate you sharing with us about the Land Rover Club in Bulgaria and sharing about you and your kind offer to us and listeners to come to Bulgaria. It is a cool country.
I appreciated hearing about your club and the activities and also the very important things that your club does in the national parks.
This is extremely important for us. Very much, both of you, for your attention for our club, and thank you for all listeners.
We hope you enjoyed show number 85. Thanks to Morgan, Harold, and Dixon, and also David Short for coming on the show. Thanks, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks to the One True Pax for his continued production support, and also to Zlati Zlatev for talking about Bulgaria and Land Rover in Bulgaria. I was very excited to hear about what goes on with Land Rovers in Bulgaria, which really isn't much different than what goes on here.
That's the beauty of the Land Rover community. It's pretty much the same anywhere. It's just fun to hear in a different language.
Visit our website, centresteer.com, to listen to previous shows and for show notes, which have links to stories we discussed in today's show. We're part of the 4x4 Radio Network, and I invite you to check out other 4x4 related shows at 4x4radionetwork.com. If you're not a subscriber, please do so you can get the show automatically downloaded to your cell phone or your computer, wherever it is you listen. It's the best way to get the show and make sure you have it when it comes out, or maybe when something special comes out. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and email. You can directly support the show at patreon.com/Centresteer. And now you can buy us a tea just like Nick and Bob did for us. You can buy us a tea. Show your support also for the podcast with a t-shirt or sticker. Just click on store on the menu on our webpage.
So once lockdown's over, you can head out in your spiffy Centresteer t-shirt. If you haven't seen it, it's a very nice t-shirt. Comes in one color. That color is trail tone. It's the only color you'll need.
I assure you that when you purchase a shirt, especially, most likely a sticker, especially if you're outside the United States, it will be transported from my home to the post office in a 1987 Land Rover 110. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear from you and what you're up to in your Land Rover. Until next time, I ask you to share the show with one other Land Rover enthusiast.
And you may now resume your important things.
You don't want to say essential?
Okay, if you got essential things to do, do them. If you got important things, do those. If you got nothing to do at all, well, listen to another episode.
Let's not discuss about IT people.